Your gut's internal cleaning system is currently paralyzed. And because the system cannot excrete your digestive leftovers, all those waste products are being reabsorbed back into your body. That is not a metaphor, it is a biological reality. When your digestion slows down and the internal street sweeper stops running, the food you ate yesterday does not simply disappear. It sits inside a 98-degree warm, dark cave and begins to ferment. Normally, your gut bacteria act like an efficient workforce, breaking down nutrients smoothly. But when the food stops moving, the whole environment shifts. The bacteria start overfeeding on this stagnant mass. They multiply in the trapped heat, fiercely fermenting sugars and fibers, releasing gas and toxic byproducts as they work. Think of it like a biological compost pile operating right against the delicate, one-cell thick lining of your intestines. This silent internal leak can be the trigger behind the mental fog you experience during the day, the stubborn bloating that stretches tightly under your clothes, and the heavy physical fatigue that makes the afternoon feel like midnight. Most people try to fix this by drinking harsh liquid detoxes or starving themselves with extreme cleanses. But you cannot brute force a paralyzed engine. You have to physically turn the body's natural switches back on. In this video, we are looking at 8 specific, scientifically backed herbs that carry the exact chemical keys to reactivate your stalled digestion. We will show you how these plants gently flush out the trapped waste, soothe the irritated gut lining, and finally clear the fog from your brain. You probably know this exact feeling about 30 minutes after a meal. You sit at your desk or sink into your couch, and it feels like a heavy brick is resting right below your ribs. The food is not digesting, it is simply parked. You might drink an espresso hoping to force it down, but the heaviness stays. Your stomach's physical movement has effectively gone to sleep. This is where we need our first plant, ginger. Instead of just viewing it as a mild tea for nausea, think of ginger as a biological jumper cable. As soon as its active compounds touch the lining of your stomach, they trigger a thermal reaction. They force the surrounding blood vessels to open wide. This acts as a physical spark, reigniting the rhythmic wave that forces your sleeping stomach to finally contract and push that heavy, stubborn mass forward into the intestine. But here is the trap. When you suddenly push a heavy, fermenting mass into a sensitive intestinal tract, your body can feel irritated. The walls of your gut clamp down defensively. You feel this in real time as a sudden knot in your lower belly, the kind of cramp that makes you want to discreetly unbutton your jeans under the table. To break this painful resistance, ginger's ignition needs a functional partnership. And this is where peppermint comes in. Peppermint acts as a profound chemical negotiator. Because it carries highly concentrated menthol, it intercepts the exact biological stress signals that are causing your gut to spasm. While ginger acts as the engine pushing the traffic from behind, peppermint forces the tense muscle walls directly ahead of it to take a deep biological breath and physically let go. The knot dissolves, the twisted pathway opens, and the digestive matter can finally slide forward. Yet as this old mass moves, it hits the next major roadblock. It pushes against pockets of trapped air. And this trapped gas is exactly what makes your stomach bulge so uncomfortably. By early evening, you might look in the mirror and notice your belly looks completely different than it did this morning. The stomach wall is stretched tight, pushing uncomfortably against your waistband. If you tap on it, it might even feel hard. You have not gained weight in 8 hours. What you are looking at is trapped fermentation gas. As the ginger and peppermint begin to move the old digestive mass forward, the bacteria inside are still actively fermenting the trapped fibers. This creates gas. Normally, this air passes unnoticed, but in a sluggish, irritated gut, the gas gets trapped in millions of tiny, tight foam bubbles. They cannot travel. They just sit there, stretching your intestinal walls to their physical limits. You cannot just wait for this pressure to magically disappear. You need a mechanism to break the surface tension of those bubbles. This is where fennel steps in. Fennel contains volatile oil compounds that act like a biological defoamer. When these oils enter the gut environment, they physically break the tension of the microscopic bubbles, allowing them to merge into larger, easily movable pockets of air. The painful swelling immediately begins to collapse. However, releasing this gas requires a functional partnership with your entire nervous system. If you have been bloated and uncomfortable all day, your brain senses this physical stress. It triggers a mild fight or flight response, which instinctively forces your digestive tract to freeze up. This is why we add chamomile. Forget the idea of chamomile as just a mild bedtime tea. It carries a potent compound called apigenin, which binds to specific receptors in your brain to manually flip your nervous system switch back to rest and digest. While fennel physically deflates the trapped air bubbles, chamomile convinces your body that it is safe to open the gates and let that air pass. The sudden drop in pressure brings immense physical relief. Your stomach flattens back out, but deflating the balloon does not remove the actual heavy waste that caused the fermentation in the first place. That leftover mass is still waiting to be completely flushed out of your system, and to do that, we need to activate the body's primary chemical drain. Even if the gas deflates and your stomach flattens out, you might still feel a deep, lingering exhaustion. You sleep for 8 solid hours, but wake up feeling heavy. That mental fog is still hovering over your day. This happens because the chemical byproducts from all that stagnant fermentation are still circulating inside you. Your gut has not actually eliminated them yet. To physically flush these out of your body, you have to activate your master chemical drain, and that is your bile. Think of bile as an internal biological detergent. It acts like a sticky fluid that grabs onto heavy digestive waste, trapped fats, and filtered waste products, pulling them down into the colon to be permanently excreted. But in a sluggish gut, this crucial detox system breaks down. The bile gets thick and stagnant. It stops flowing. The waste products simply pile up in your liver instead of being flushed out, which triggers that deep whole-body fatigue. To turn the fluid drain back on, we rely on a specific biological trigger: bitter compounds. We use dandelion root and artichoke leaf. When the highly bitter compounds from dandelion root hit your receptors, they send an immediate signal directly to your liver. They command it to start producing fresh, thin bile. It acts as a deep internal rinse, turning on the faucet. Once the faucet is running, artichoke leaf steps in to open the drain. Artichoke contains a compound called cynurin, which physically forces the gallbladder to contract. It takes the bile, which has bound all those filtered waste products, and actively pumps it into the intestines. Without this mechanical contraction, the bile simply remains stored in the gallbladder, unable to do its job. Together, dandelion and artichoke do not just move food, they actively detoxify your system by ensuring those trapped chemicals are finally excreted completely out of your body through your newly mobilized gut. However, as the accumulated digestive waste and concentrated bile finally move through your colon, a final problem remains. The delicate lining of your intestines is usually left highly irritated and inflamed from the prolonged stagnation. Once your digestion is finally moving again, you might notice a lingering sensation. Your stomach feels sensitive. After days of being stretched and tense, the tissue inside is simply exhausted. You might even feel a bit hesitant to eat your next meal, worried that the uncomfortable bloating might immediately return. This is where we need to quietly calm the system down. We use turmeric. Many people know turmeric from popular recipes, but inside a tired, overworked gut, it does something very specific. The active compound, curcumin, gently cools down the irritated tissue from the inside. It quiets the low-grade inflammation that makes your belly feel so sensitive and uneasy. That constant feeling of tightness finally fades. But calming the tissue is only half the job. We also need to protect it while it recovers. That is why we additionally integrate marshmallow root. When you steep marshmallow root in water, it releases a very soft, soothing plant gel. As you drink it, it glides through your system and lays a smooth, protective layer over the sensitive areas. Think of it like honey coating a scratchy throat, but for your intestines. It shields your internal lining so you can comfortably eat your next meal without triggering a new wave of cramps. But this botanical gel serves a second strictly mechanical purpose. Your intestinal lining is designed to completely rebuild itself every 72 hours. It sheds old, damaged epithelial cells and replaces them with a brand new, tight wall. However, when stagnant digestive mass and chronic inflammation constantly irritate that lining, this natural 3-day renewal cycle is entirely blocked. The tissue never gets the quiet window it needs to recover. Marshmallow root physically buys your body that time. By laying down a temporary shield, it isolates the raw tissue from digestive acids, giving your cells a protected environment to execute that 72-hour rebuild. Once this protective gel is in place, the real transformation begins. Without the constant assault of trapped acids, your native beneficial gut bacteria finally wake up. They use the marshmallow roots gel as a physical scaffold, latching onto it like a microscopic biological coral reef, rapidly expanding across the healed tissue. As millions of these healthy bacteria multiply and spread along the structural matrix, they permanently crowd out any remaining pockets of toxic fermentation. They retake control of their territory. The heavy fatigue, the painful swelling, and the lingering brain fog simply vanish because your internal ecosystem is no longer a stagnant trap. It is a flowing, protected, and fully active bacterial engine.